Welcome to the Galen Trombley Show. You can find me on Facebook at Galen Trombley, on Instagram at Galen Trombley, and on YouTube at Galen Trombley. Spelling GaelanTrombley. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Galen Trombley Show.
That'd be a lot of editing.
That would be a lot of editing. So,
nope, that's inappropriate. Nope, that's inappropriate.
This is a great segue. We're live now, so this is good. So, if you guys didn't know, my guest today, this is going to be a really boring episode, so if you guys want to turn it off now, go ahead. But I have Miss Jackie Robertin here. She is, I knew you from, I think, the Shazy Music Theater days. Yeah. And then we just run into each other a couple times a year in and about town, and you're just a fun person, and I always say that there's not a whole lot you got to do to get on the show, but if you're a cool, fun person, then that's usually got a good pass to get on. So
it's a good standard.
That's good. The standards are low, but we put the bar low and just make sure that people get on. So, Jackie, for people that do not know you, kind of just give us a rundown who you are, what you do, where you came from, and then we'll dive right into it. Give us all the background.
Oh gosh. Okay, so when I was in the third grade, so I work at the YMCA. And like you said, you and I know each other from Shazy Music Theater days. And I've done a lot of theater in a lot of different places, so I get to meet a lot of awesome people like yourself. And now I run the front office at the Y.
So where are you from? Local or import?
I consider myself local because I've been here long enough.
Like a squatter?
But my dad was in the Air Force, and so we came here. Excuse me. We came here when the base was open. Okay. And then, so I grew up my initial years in Italy, and then he moved here, and then 4 years later he retired. And I was like, oh, thanks, Dad. We could have retired 4 years ago in Italy.
so mid 90s ish, early 90s. You moved here?
Thank you for that. A little earlier.
Well, you were like 4 or 5 years old at the time, right? So.
No. I was heading into junior high when we came here. Basically when he retired, we stayed here. At the time, both of my parents still had jobs on the base, so we just decided to stay here. And then I went into high school at Plattsburgh High. Okay. So, and so, except for a couple of brief stints, I've basically been here since. So I consider myself a local.
Can you speak? Can you speak Italy? Can you speak Italian?
I can speak Italy. I can. It's faded a lot.
Okay. But you were fluent. I mean, you must have been, right?
I was. Yes, I was. And over the years of not using it so much, like it's faded a lot. But I can understand a lot more than I could speak. But yes, I can still speak.
Have you been back to Italy?
Only once, and it was. That's an interesting story. So, it was my cousin's wedding. My cousin was getting married in Rome, and it was 2 months after 9/11. Ooh. So, my family over there, they had sent us an invite, and somehow, I'm not really sure how, but my parents failed to tell me that the invite had come. So it was just kind of like a formality. The family over there was just like, of course you're invited. We know you probably can't make it. And then 9/11 happened, and they were like, yeah, we realize you definitely can't make it. Well, I didn't find out about the wedding date until a week and a half before the wedding. And I have this, core love of Italy. That's my true home, if I could ever call one. And so when I found out that his wedding was in Rome, I freaked, and I was like, I have to go to the wedding. I have to go. So my mom is a goddess, and she scoured sites, and she and my sister were scouring sites. And she used to be a travel agent. And so she contacted her old friends to see if they could find any deals. Of course, tickets were dirt cheap because it was right after 9/11. So I got a round trip ticket from Albany, no stops, from Albany to Rome for $400.
You could afford to come back and get your toothbrush if you forgot it. I was like, yeah.
Seriously. And I left work. I took a half day on Thursday, left work, drove to Albany, flew out, landed their time Friday morning, spent the day with my family. They were like showing me around. Saturday was the wedding. Sunday morning, like 10 a.m., I left there, came back, went to work Monday morning. Nobody at work knew that I had gone because I had only taken the one day off.
Wow.
Nobody knew. And so they were like, so how's your weekend? And I was like, I went to Rome.
New York?
Yeah, that's exactly what they said. They were like, oh, okay. And so that's Rome, New York? And I was like, no.
Italia.
I went to Italy. And they were like, for the weekend? But it was crazy. It was crazy. And it was so awesome. And of course I got to see, and the family that I saw there at the time, I hadn't seen them in, I think it had been like 11 years or 12 years, something like that. And so of course it was a reunion of, but here was the kicker, because my family, who did not live in Rome, was in Rome for the wedding. When we had finally found the ticket, which was like 3 days before I left, we couldn't contact anyone. So nobody knew that I was coming.
Really? Did you know where you were going?
All I had was the address on the wedding invitation, which was the bride's family's address, the bride who I had never met, because the groom was my cousin. And so that was all I had. So my plan was to get off of the airplane and go to a cab and be like, take me here. So what I didn't know was, in the air, while I was literally in the air, my family was finally able to get a hold of, or my mother was finally able to get a hold of my family in Italy and let them know. So once you get off the plane, you automatically go onto this train. We were in Fiumicino, and the train takes you to the center of Rome, basically. And so I get off the train still thinking that they don't know I'm coming, still thinking that I have to get into a cab. And so I get off the train and I'm walking down the track, not the track, but I'm walking down the platform, and this guy passes me. And mind you, I hadn't seen my family in well over a decade. And this guy passes me and I was like, wow, he looks really familiar. Uncle Polino! And so I called to him and he comes running over, and my cousin's
Was he there to pick you up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I didn't know that my mother had finally contacted them to let them know that I was coming while I was in the air. This was before cell phones, so... This
is also before Facebook. I mean, you talk about dialing. You're dialing like 15 numbers to get across the Atlantic.
Exactly. So, it was just a whirlwind of a weekend, and it was one of the best things that I've ever done in my life.
So, anytime you have a trip or anytime you do something and it's like spur of the moment, those are always the best trips. Mm-hmm. Because the expectation level is zero.
Exactly.
And it's like, as long as I just like do something, it's a win. As long as
I show up and I'm alive when I come back,
yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, and because I've always found like when you plan too much, you really set yourself up for failure, because you're trying to like we got a trip going, we're doing this,
Absolutely.
we're doing that, we're doing this, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, well that like adventure thing on the trip was, we were looking forward to, it wasn't as good as we thought it would be. Where if you just like showed up and like, hey, you want a free ticket to go do this, you're like, yeah, what the hell, let me try it.
Absolutely.
So yes, I couldn't imagine traveling like that back in the day, because now we're so reliant on cell phones, where you just like, like MapQuest, like you used to put like MapQuest on, and the thing with MapQuest, now you got GPS. Like, I make wrong turns all the time. Then it just recalculates. Like, then it's like, shoot, I got to get back to Route 29 to get onto. Then it's like you missed the exit. Okay, well now you're screwed. Now you can just scramble that paper up and throw it out. And you're asking some crazy postman like, where to go. So Italy. Where did you grow up in Italy? Was it Rome or
no? Part of the time we were down. It's kind of like the heel of the boot in San Vito. And then the other part, we were in Nabbiano, which is in the northeast.
Oh, so you moved around quite a bit. I mean, like distance-wise, geography, like. Of Italy.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, I was really little, so I don't remember it. But I think for like 8 or 9 months between those two places, we went to Oklahoma.
like
USA, Oklahoma. Yeah. But I was little, and so I don't remember that. But we went to Oklahoma, and I remember it being like a really short amount of time, like a matter of months. And then we went back to Italy, and that's when we went to Aviano.
So your father was stationed in Oklahoma? Or parents?
My father was in the Air Force. Yeah.
So he got transferred to Oklahoma, you think?
Oh, no, I know that we were there.
Okay.
I just don't remember exactly how long we were there, but I know it was a short amount of time. And then, so we went from San Vito to there, and then from there to Aviano.
Okay, and you were born in the U.S.?
No.
You were born in Italy?
No.
Where were you born? Just made up a... Like, what? Are you an American citizen now?
I am.
So where were you born?
I was born in Germany.
At an Air Force base or at a military base?
At a military base. It was an army base, actually, but I was born in Wiesbaden, Germany. We were living in Italy at the time, but I was a problem child. Who knew? And so a month before I was born, my mother was sent to a hospital in Wiesbaden, and that's where I was born. And then we came back to Italy. So until I was 18 or maybe 21, no, I don't remember, I had dual citizenship with Germany, and I had never lived there before. We don't have German, ancestors, or like I don't have German family.
So anytime you fill out like a medical record, you have to put like Germany, born in Germany.
Correct.
Yeah, that's so wild. I mean, so you see it with like military people. I
Yeah.
remember like, I think Kobe Bryant parents were in the military, and he lived in Italy for a long time. Like,
Did
he
he?
was fluent in it, like Italian. Like,
Yeah.
Italy. He's fluent in
He's fluent in Italy.
He's fluent in Italy. He knows all about that culture. But I went to Italy one time ever, my senior year of high school, and we flew in.
Nice.
No, we took the train down from Paris, so we went like through the Alps and everything, and then it was a night train, so I didn't really see anything because I like the border lights. But we ended up rolling into someplace in the north, but we went to like Florence and we went to Pisa, and we kind of worked our way down the west side of it. So we went to Italy. We went to Rome, and then we went down to, was it Assisi?
Yeah.
Went through Assisi, Capri, Sorrento. Am I saying the right names?
Yes.
That sounds right. Okay.
Yes.
That's again. That's like your Oklahoma story. Like I know it was there somewhere, but so we went down, and it was the difference in the temperature. We went in April. So I was wondering, when you were at the boot versus the Northeast, like that's got to be a pretty big change in temperature.
Oh yeah.
Because the South is really warm.
Yes.
It's like
very.
Mediterranean.
Yeah, I would say it's probably the equivalent of going from, from here in no, because northern Italy is nothing like here. But it would be, in terms of distance, it would probably be the equivalent of going from here to the bottom of Pennsylvania. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I think.
It could be right.
It could be.
Just say it confidently, and I'll be like, yeah, that sounds
It
good.
totally is. I measured it.
One of those wheels. little was it odometer? Little odometer wheel. I have one at home. My kid plays all the time. Okay. So how did you get into
Excuse me.
musical theater? Because that's how I met you originally.
Yeah.
And you were the choreographer.
Yep.
So actually, let's go back. How'd you get into dance? Because I'm assuming that started before.
Dance was always something that I just loved to do. I love to watch it, and with moving around a lot and stuff, and we didn't really do like dance lessons. I took maybe a year of dance lessons when I was like 9, and then coming here, they didn't have dance lessons available on the base, so we had to. So if I needed to take, or if I wanted to take them, they had to be off base, which was more expensive. So I just kind of spent a lot of time watching MTV when they still played music videos, and like the old, I'm gonna date myself, but let's see, there was
Like Madonna dance videos.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there was also the dance shows like USA Dance, and I caught the tail end of like the Solid Gold days. I wasn't there for like the highlight, but there was another show, and I used to watch them religiously like every single day. Instead of watching like a lot of cartoons, I was watching dance shows. And so over the years, it just sort of built up more and more of a passion. And then I got involved in theater my sophomore year of high school. And at the time, they weren't doing plays at the school. They weren't doing musicals. They were only doing plays. And then my senior year of high school, my friend and I Tony Herculo, I love you. She and I begged the drama club and the drama advisor to finally let us do a musical. Everybody was really interested in it. We knew that we had the support for it. And so we finally put up a musical. It was Anything Goes. And that was my first musical ever. And dance came a little easier for me than some of the other people. And so the girl that was the choreographer, she was also a student. She kind of made me her dance captain, and it just sort of rolled from there, you know. And then in college, I continued doing theater whenever I could. It wasn't like really a major or anything, but I just enjoyed it, and I kind of didn't want it to be a major. I didn't want to like make it like an official thing. I just wanted to keep it a hobby. And then just out of college is when I started choreographing for Essex Theater Company. First show that I ever choreographed was Sound of Music. And I was like, okay, so let's do things and like turn and point and stuff. That sounds good. And then every year I just did more and more shows, and it just kind of grew from there.
Imagine doing the Sound of Music, taking like the Von Trapps and having them be like, was it the Jabberwockies? Like just start doing like some like Von Trapp group dance. Be like, wait, what is this? It's like Sound of Music meets hip hop. But so what style of dance is like your, like how does it work? Like I mean I know dancing obviously, but like how do you pick if you go to a performance, like what style of dance you want to focus on, or is it like two people versus a group of people versus, you know, small set, big set, the style of music? Like what's your process of coming up with like a dance? In
musical theater, there's a lot of factors in that. So when a number is written for a show, for the most part, it's usually suggested whether it's meant for a couple or it's meant for a soloist or it's supposed to be a big ensemble number. And that's kind of written into the show. There are a few exceptions to songs where a choreographer can get creative and be like, okay, I know that this is meant to be a duet, but I'm going to have dancers in the back and we're going to make it a big ensemble number. Or it's meant to be a solo, but then a choreographer can decide to put like shadow dancers in the back or something like that. So there is a little bit of leeway in terms of creativity. But the way at least with musical theater, it's pretty laid out for you of what the baseline is supposed to be. And then you just kind of go from that. And then as far as like what style of dance it is, that's really fed from the music itself, you know, whether it's supposed to be jazzy or if it's a slow ballet or if it's a calypso. Do you know what I mean?
Well, so what plays did you do? I'm going to go to Shazy Music Theater because I was involved I actually did it for 10 years, which I thought was, when I actually like look back on it, I'm like, how the heck did I do
saw you there a lot.
Yeah, but I'm like, how did I do it for 10 years? I did not dance. For the record, anybody listening, I moved stuff. I did not dance or sing.
You know what? You were the face that we were happy to see coming off stage because we were like, oh, okay, things are going right back here.
We didn't have like a look of like panic on our face. Like you guys all walk, just keep it cool. Yeah, we're doing good.
Yeah.
So we're panicking.
Everything's fine.
Heads cut off. So my first one was 2000. I think it was 2005. It was Seussical. One of my all-time favorites still to this day. It was Seussical. And then you were in that one, right?
Yeah, I was co-director.
Okay, so Seussical was, we can talk about that after, but I was my first year. And my last year, it was probably like 2014, 15. It must have been 15, 10 years. I don't remember what the play was, though.
Yeah, I don't remember by year.
So,
either.
But that's like, so I'd say from like, say 2005 to 15 was probably when I was involved. So that's kind of, which plays kind of during that time frame for Shazy Music Theater?
Let's see. Well, Seussical was the first one that I co-directed that one with Joe Fortin. So that was the first time that I was like in a director's position. Before that, I had only done choreography. Let's see.
Because I think the next,
there was
my memory.
Well, there was West Side Story.
West Side Story, yeah. I'm trying to go by, like, I know it sounds weird, but I know I was a freshman at that time, so I remember they did Aida.
I was not a part of that one.
Okay, then they did 2011. not 11, 2000. I was 11. I was 11th grade. 2000. I think it was.
Hello Dolly was in there.
Hello
somewhere.
Dolly. That was it. You're right.
I was in that one. I didn't choreograph or direct. I was in it.
And I think King and I was my senior year.
King and I did not do.
Beauty and the Beast.
Nope.
Then there was West Side Story.
Right after that was West Side Story, and that was when I came back in.
Okay, and there's West Side Story. I think Drowsy Chaperone.
Drowsy Chaperone.
Which was my all-time favorite. That was my all-time favorite
absolutely one of my favorite
I think it was my favorite one because of Andy.
I mean, I don't blame you there.
He was fantastic.
That whole cast is fantastic. It was so much fun to do.
I think if I had to pick one person in the perfect role out of all the Shazy Music Theaters I ever saw was him as the chaperone. No, not
the
chaperone.
Narrator.
The narrator. That was it. The man, they called him, I think.
Man.
It was
Man in
chair.
the chair.
Yeah, man
that
in
was
the
his
chair.
official
Man
name.
in the chair. That's right. Just this old guy getting going and
getting
grabbing
boozed
stuff
up and going through his records.
Yeah, it was a sad Friday night, but it was good.
Oh man, such a good show.
So, okay, so West Side Story, you were part of that as the choreographer
For West Side, yeah.
Drowsy Chaperone.
Yep, choreographer.
And, Gypsy,
I choreographed that and I was in it. I was one of the gimmick girls.
Wait, was that the one with the big scene with the restaurant scene? Was that Gypsy? When they had all the curtains and there was a big
No, that was Hello Dolly.
That was Hello Dolly. You were in that one. That was a great scene. She had the trumpet.
No, that was Hello Dolly. I was Ernestina Money, and she's like she was the wacky date that Andy Ducharme gets set up with.
Yes.
Or his character. I forgot his. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his character. Horace Vandergilder.
Oh, that's a good pick.
So yeah, Dolly sets him up with Ernestina Money to ward him away from getting married to somebody else.
I remember that was a really big scene, though, right?
Oh yeah, because we had the whole waiter's dance.
Yeah, I remember that from a prop standpoint. That was an insane scene.
It was insane. Absolutely.
It was a great number, but it was an insane scene. So,
absolutely.
Out of all the ones that you did, what were the ones that jumped out as that? I remember that dance, or that was like Chicago. Were you in Chicago?
I choreographed it.
Chicago. Okay.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite ones.
That's one of my babies.
Yeah.
Yep.
Chicago. There was a lot of that was the one that I remember being involved at. I heard the most amount of people say stuff about.
Oh, really?
Just
I mean,
friends
that
or
doesn't
family.
really surprise me. I guess
it's known.
It was fantastic.
It's a known play, but everybody did really good in that.
Yes.
And it was just the numbers were classic and the songs and everything else. But so which one really sticks out to you, or which scenes stick out to you during that time?
Well, Drowsy Chaperone definitely sticks out to me because that's one of my favorites, and it was so much fun to put together. Chicago sticks out to me because that's also one of my favorites. Having the orchestra on stage with Nelson guiding them, they just sounded fantastic. And let's see. I mean, Gypsy sticks out to me, obviously, because that's the one and only time I've ever played a stripper. But
Heyo.
We're going to leave that one right there. Yeah, I remember for that show, poor Nelson, God bless his heart. He is such a wonderful man. He would stay after rehearsal with me or meet me early to help me practice because I had to play the trumpet because that was my gimmick for my character. Bump it with a trumpet.
So Gypsy, there was a trumpet scene.
Yeah, that was Gypsy.
Gypsy. Okay, I remember you with the trumpet, so there you go.
That's hard to forget.
That's it.
It was really hard to forget. I know that people have tried, but he, bless his heart, he would stay and he would try desperately to teach me how to play the trumpet because in my solo version, my solo part of the song that the three dancers sing, like I said, my gimmick was playing the trumpet, and so it was supposed to sound bad, so I had that in my favor. But I did have to make it sound somewhat similar to the music that they were going to be playing underneath me. So he tried so desperately to get me to play it right, and I was like, if we go really, really slow, I'll only butcher it a little bit. So he slowed the entire orchestra down for the little part that I had to play my solo, which of course the solo finished with me playing my ending note bent over with the trumpet between
I think
my
that's
legs.
the scene that I remember.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's hard to forget.
From my view, though, I didn't see what the crowd got
Count
to see.
your blessings.
I got to see.
Be a happy man because
I got
of
to
that.
see the stage left version of it.
Yeah, you got to see the audience.
Yeah.
Oh, that poor audience. But it was, you know, it was super fun. And the two girls that I worked with, we just had a really, really good chemistry. It was Carly and Katie, and we just had really good chemistry. So that fed onto the stage. And that was the year, that was the first year that Sarah Munson first came onto the scene.
She was Mama Rose.
And she played Mama Rose.
Yeah.
And she came out of nowhere. Nobody knew who she was, you know, and she
Sarah's great.
she's one of my closest friends
Yeah,
now.
such a good one.
And because we had, you know, initiated a great chemistry off stage, when we had to have our moment on stage of like, you disgust me, both looking at each other that way, it fed really well. And I remember like we had our momentary dialogue with each other, and then I'm supposed to like give her a look, and then I walk off stage. And I remember the first night they started applauding as I was walking off, and they were applauding literally that moment between us, like just her and I, just that moment interaction of us giving eyeballs to each other. And I remember you. I walked off, and you were standing directly in front of me, and you had this big smile on your face. And I'm like, what is happening right now? What are they applauding? And you were like, that was awesome. Oh. I was like, I don't know what just happened, but that was definitely a very cool moment.
When you get you get claps for dialogue, then you know it's because that's a powerful acting scene. Because typically you get a song or a big number, there's going to be an applause. But if it's applause throughout, there's a few times that happen, and you're like, oh wow, like they really, I say the actor or actress really sold it on stage, because like that's the one thing that I always found fascinating, and I forgot who told us. It was an actress. Someone was there, and I remember telling them like, I could never do what you would do, and they said to me like, well, I could never do what you did. And I'm like, what? I never understood it, because I'm like, I'm just staying in the back moving stuff. Like anybody.
Oh no, that's important.
But in my mind, I was like, it's easy. But like for me, it's easy to move stuff, and I would be like, I can't sing. And I don't know if I can act. Funny story. Our senior,
I think you can.
So get this. Our senior play, we did this. It was like for Shazy. We did a senior play. It was just like a little spoof, like Christmas thing. I had 3 lines. I missed one of my lines because I zoned out. Because it was like there's so much space, and I was just like, I was so bored. I was just standing there, and all of a sudden, like it was dead quiet. It's like, why is there this awkward pause? I'm like, oh my bad, my line. So I should not be on stage. If so, give me a lot of lines so I don't forget or miss where I'm at. But yeah, I always like when you guys go out and sing or dance or especially when you're in a serious role and you're trying to convey an emotion that you don't really feel. Like you know what I mean? Like you weren't pissed at Sarah, but you had to feel like you were, you know. And I always found like that's got to be really difficult. And for someone on stage, like you just do it. I'm like how would you tap? Like, how do you tap into emotion? Like, when you see, like, actors or actresses, they cry on, like, TV or they do something emotional. It's like, how do you draw that out when you're not really feeling it? Or do you just kind of, like, force yourself to feel it?
I think actors all approach that in a different way, because there are actors that will specifically, like, if they have to do a sad scene, they specifically think about something sad to tap into. And then there are others that I knew a guy in college who, when he had to do a sad scene, he would dig his fingernail into his leg to cause himself pain so that he would cry. And that was how he tapped into that. And I was like, you're a little bit of a sadist. Cool. Yeah. Bye. Crazy. Not going to hang out with you off stage. Okay. But and then there's other actors that just from, you know, whether it be years of training or years of experience or whatever, they just can snap into it and snap out as needed. But I think every actor just kind of draws on it differently. And, you know, it's actually what I have found is that it's a lot easier to do serious roles than it is comedic and stay in the moment. So like if you're supposed to be a comedic character who is happy all the time and goofy and whatever, that takes a lot of energy out of you, especially if something's going on off stage or in your life or whatever that is not happy. Yeah. You got to pull, you know what I mean? You got to pull from somewhere. But everybody experiences dark days or tough times or whatever. And so when you're on stage and you got to do a dramatic moment or a sad moment or an angry moment, it's a lot easier to pull on that from somewhere and get the moment out. Whereas if you're supposed to be that happy person and excuse me, sometimes it takes a little bit more out of you.
When like if I was like watching someone that was sad or happy, and you're kind of like you're watching them do it, but like it comes easy. I'm assuming it's from obviously practice, but it's just like the muscle memory. Like when you walk out and you do a scene, take the one with Sarah. Like if you're doing that scene, you pretty much can convey that emotion because like you just know like on a certain turn or movement or step that this is kind of how because you're playing it all in your head.
Yeah.
And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you feel that even though you know what's coming or what's happening, you still feel like you're like living in the moment where it just like happens and you're not really thinking about it? You just like, it's almost like involuntary at that point.
It has to be muscle memory. At least for me, I know that that's when I make the most mistakes is when I haven't committed it to muscle memory.
You overthink it?
Yeah. And I get caught up in the moment and I'm like, I'm supposed to do something here, or I'm supposed to say something or whatever. But when it's muscle memory, sorry, excuse me.
Sorry, I'll jump in. So, like, it's almost like when you're walking, you know when people think about like.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Think about like when people take a step. Like if you think about the act of walking, everybody can just walk.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you're like, think about actually walking. You think about taking the step. All of a sudden it's like I'm in like concrete because your mind's like almost like you're trying to like make your mind move your leg instead of just letting things happen.
I found that a great example of that is when I'm teaching a routine and I say, okay, for this 8 count, you're going to walk to these new positions. Make sure you walk on the beat. When they're focusing, the first few times that they do it, when they're focusing on the beat, their arms move weird sometimes. And I'll be like, it's opposite arm, opposite foot, like walk naturally. Yeah. And when they start to think about it, they're like, their body almost just contracts and they just do it wrong. And so I'll show them, I'm like, think about when you walk naturally. Just walk across the stage. Don't think about a beat. Just walk across the stage. And I'll be like, now pay attention to your arms. And they realize, oh, it's opposite arm, opposite foot. But when you're focusing on, pay attention to the beat or walk on the beat or something that's other than the walk itself, all of a sudden your body just kind of does weird things and you have to correct it. So that's where practice and muscle memory comes in. And I think, the same thing can be applied with doing lines on stage. If you have to deliver a line a certain way, you have to practice it so that you're focusing on all of the different things. Each time you practice it, you focus on another thing so that eventually the whole picture comes together.
So when you're choreographing, I'm like Italy. I swear, like I said, all you gotta do is talk, and I'm not very good at talking. So when you choreograph a dance or a number, when you're sitting there like watching it, what do you look for when, let's say you have a few people dancing, it could be, more than 2. Let's say it's more than a couple. You have kind of a group dancing. What are you focusing on in correcting and making changes or trying to kind of convey when you have multiple people dancing?
Well, if it's a part of the song where they're supposed to be moving in sync, I look for who's out of sync. Okay. And by scanning the stage as you're watching dancers, that's really easy to tell, like who's behind the beat or who missed a move or whatever. If it's a part of the song where they are all supposed to be doing something different, I'm not really sure if I know how to explain it in words, but as I'm looking at the whole stage, here's an excellent example. Do you remember Razzle Dazzle in Chicago?
Yes.
It was the circus number.
Yes.
Everybody was literally doing something different the entire time. So in that moment, you really have to...
Sorry, that was the one with the backdrop. It went up over?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yes.
Yes. So you literally have to just be scanning the entire time, but also you're looking at the overall. Am I seeing movement from the whole stage or is there a dead spot? meaning, and by that I mean like somebody who's not moving very much or who needs to be moving more than what they were given to do. Is we were trying to give that impression of a circus. Does it look like you don't know where to look next? Because that was the feel that we wanted. We wanted people to be like, I don't know where to look first, and the idea was, you're constantly darting your eyes around to see what everybody's doing, to make sure that that impression is being given the whole time, so that if one person or one couple was stared at the entire time, what would they be, would they be entertaining enough to keep somebody's attention? And then you go to the next one, to make sure that they're doing something the entire time. Audiences' eyes don't work that way. They don't zero, unless it's like a parent with their 9-year-old kid that they want to make sure that they see everything. Typical audience eyes don't work that way. And so they kind of scan the stage. But in preparation for that overall look, we during rehearsals would zero in on people and be like, okay, you're not moving enough, or you're moving too much and you're distracting from the singer. Or that's another thing that we look for in musical theater. You're going to always have, not always, most of the time you're going to have singers. You want to make sure that the choreography does not detract from that, and that it complements it, it feeds it. So like the example I used earlier, if there's a couple singing and there's background dancers, you want to make sure that if the background dancers are noticed, it's in complement to what the couple is doing. So you try not to take away from them. Or is the couple moving with them? And it's supposed to be like an echo. It's supposed to be like an extension of the couple. So it's a bunch of different things that it depends on the song, it depends on the show, it depends on the music,
So like Razzle Dazzle, everybody's doing their own thing. I mean, you have to choreograph every single person, right? Because you said basically, if like some guy's with a ribbon twirling it, and a girl's got a baton and she's flipping it, you got to make sure they're doing something, like you said, for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever the song is.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a difference in terms of time between choreographing what the ballet dancer is doing and choreographing what the strongman is doing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's just telling the strongman, okay, this is the order of the things that I want you lift this up, and then you lift this up, and then you do this with this arm, and then you do this with this arm. Whereas the ballet dancer, you have to go into a little bit more intricacies with that. So there were certain things that people were doing. I think I'm trying to remember everything that was done in that number. I know we had a magician. So we had to like plan out that a certain trick would happen when Roxy and Billy went moving by the magician.
So he like pulls her
so
up
it's a timing thing as well, that because Billy was walking Roxy around so that she could see all the different acts, and whenever they passed by a certain act, we had to choreograph the timing of something happening at that moment. So it's numbers that require all the people to be doing different things definitely take a lot longer than choreographing everybody doing the same thing.
And when you talk about like dead space or someone maybe not moving as much, have you ever like almost like a coach, like move players around, like move people around?
100%.
Okay, I didn't know if they were like you said, the strongman's there, but you're like, he doesn't compliment, and she's like, and this could be just the person. Like this guy's got 2 left feet, and this one's a really good mover. Let's put them together to kind of like singing. Like let's just kind of hide that person there. Okay, so you call an audible and say, hey, we're gonna move you over here to this whole. Like,
yes, and it's community theater, so everybody's there to have a good time, and everybody's there to you want to encourage people to want to be there and to try their best. So you don't. So I mean, I know that there are choreographers and directors that do this, but I would never say to an actor and be like, you really suck. And so I need to put you as far back as I can and block you with as many people as possible so that nobody sees what you're doing with your body. Even though I may want to, even though I may want to, I would never say that to an actor, but I might say something, well, no, I'm not going to say what I would say because it'll give away my tricks. But I might say something, obviously to not insult them but make them understand that I'm looking at the bigger
Is it like
picture.
a compliment sandwich?
Yeah.
Compliment, critique, compliment again. We're good. Ham sandwich. Have a good day.
Yeah. But yeah, and I do, and whether they're doing something horribly wrong or they're just, I just need to move them for any other reason, I do try to remind my dancers or my actors or whoever it is I'm working with, I always try to remind them that I'm the one that's looking at the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. So, every once in a while you get that actor that's like, wouldn't it be better if okay, well, thank you for your input, but I'm looking at the bigger picture. I know what that's going to look like from the audience perspective. So trust me, so sometimes, people definitely need to be
throw an
hidden
extra
in the
twirl
back.
in there. You're like, nah, one twirl's enough. Now, have you ever made changes? It's probably hard, like during the actual song. Have you ever made any changes, or like because I always look at you're obviously watching the play.
You mean like during the show night?
Yeah. Or is it kind of like show nights? Like, hey, we got like I observe, I take notes, and then I kind of brief everybody the following day and just say, hey, make sure on that number you're a little bit closer to maybe the center or maybe a little bit farther forward. Do you make any tweaks like during the show or maybe like even I don't know if you could do it during a song unless you catch someone's eye.
The only time that I've ever changed something like during show, like when it's actually happening, is when we had an emergency of some kind. Mm-hmm. And somebody was late for an entrance and I would be off stage, like giving them a high sign of like, yeah, keep going or go with this or something. Or if somebody got hurt off stage and they weren't going to make the next scene or something, that's the only time. And that's happened really, really rarely. But as far, we try not to give too many notes at the end of a show unless they're really, really blatant. Like, hey, literally nobody heard you on your song. You have to be louder. Mm-hmm. Or we realize that a person is, this person is singing this part and they're completely blocked. So we've moved him to the other side of the stage just to give you a heads up. Like things like that. So we try not to give too many notes at the end of a show, or I should say at the start of the next show. We do try to give things like, hey, just be aware that blah, blah, blah. This has changed on the set. So, make sure you walk around it in the front instead of in back. Or, we try to give notes like that. But it's mostly, the hope is always that by the time you get to show, you've prepared your actors enough that just little tweaks are needed rather than huge, gigantic changes or notes.
How often does someone is not able to perform that night? Have you had that a lot? Like I've always luckily for all the years that I was Shades of Music Theater, I don't think we ever had someone that like couldn't do it or like one of the leads got really sick and couldn't perform. I mean, I've seen some like maybe their throat's a little sore and they might be like taking extra tea and not talking to people, but not to.
Not at Shazy that I can remember. I know that we've never had like you said, a lead. Like able to do it.
What happened in that situation? You just cancel the show?
No, show must go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say find a way. Like, do you have someone, or is that someone like
not at Shazy, but in other places? I've had things happen. One of my Clinton shows, it was an ensemble cast, mm-hmm. So I didn't have any leads or anything like that. Everybody kind of shared, and it was little vignettes that were part of a bigger story. And the night after our opening night, one of our actors got laryngitis. She literally had no voice. Oh, zero. Like she came out like that. That's how she was talking. And I had a queen of an actress that stepped in, and she was Callie. I'm looking at you, girl. She just stepped right in. She fortunately had done the show once before, so she was familiar with the scenes, mm-hmm. and she found out hours. I want to say like late that morning, maybe even that afternoon. I don't remember now. But it was a matter of hours before the next show, and she did not use a script on stage once. Really? Like she went out, she did all the lines, she did all the songs, she did all the choreography and blocking that I can think of. Like she did everything.
Wow.
And killed it. And we had made the announcement at the beginning of show. We were like, one of our actors got laryngitis. So-and-so is going to be filling in for her. If you happen to see her with a script on stage, that's why. So we had prepped the audience. Like they knew that was happening. And afterwards they were like, so who was the one that filled in? Like they couldn't even tell, you know?
That's awesome.
So the show goes on and like there's, you know, there've been other shows where somebody had gotten hurt and they had a big dance number. And so the musician were let known that we were going to skip the dance break and go right to the ending verse. So, you know what I mean? Like you make adjustments on the fly.
Kind of like improv a little bit.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
How much of the dance that you do is improv? Or is it mostly... Like, is there any time where you're just like, hey, listen, for this like kind of scene, just kind of move?
Very little. I mean, unless I'm doing a scene where, you know, we're supposed to be at a party and there's dialogue going on while dancing is supposed to be happening in the back, but it's not supposed to be choreographed.
Yeah.
Then I might say to them, hey, make sure that you guys are moving. Don't make it too big because then you'll detract from the conversation.
It's just kind of like a late waltz or something like that.
Yeah, like something really, really small, just kind of sway or step touch or whatever. But that's really the only time that I personally will have actors not choreographed on stage. Otherwise, I try to choreograph what they're doing.
Like, are you like a fan of like Dancing with the Stars and things like that?
I've watched a little bit of that.
Because it is impressive how they go from like some random person and
then
I say, whatever, celebrity, but they end up like, they can really dance.
Yeah, absolutely. I watch a lot of those routines mostly on YouTube because I don't have cable. So I would never, you know, watch the show itself like when it was on. But I did watch that for a little while. Not so much in the past couple of years, but I used to watch, I religiously used to watch So You Think You Can Dance.
Yeah.
And I loved especially the initial years of that, where they were literally taking people, you know, anybody that thought they could dance in any style, seeing what they could do, appreciating what they could do, and then also teaching them more. So you could get a break dancer who had never had a dance lesson in his entire life, and all of a sudden he's on an episode doing the tango and doing it well. Mm-hmm. You could get a ballet dancer and she's, you know, doing a hip hop number that she's absolutely killing it. Like it kind of morphed into something different in the later years, but initially, like I loved that about the show, and some of the routines that came out of that show were crazy good.
I just find like dancing, it's a lot like singing, a lot like music. Like music, it's just, there's certain things in life that bring like everybody together, cultures and everything like that. And
Absolutely.
I find like music, like you can go anywhere and hear music.
Yes.
You go to Italy, you hear music and like, I don't know what they're saying, but it sounds cool. Cause like everybody knows like music, there's no language to it. Or it is a language, but then you look at dance, it's kind of the same way. If I just like showed up on the streets of some street performer in some European city and watched them dance, I'm like, that person can dance. Mm-hmm. And you just are mesmerized because just the way they move. It's like the people that can dance, they just move different. And like I'll see, I mean, it's funny when you go like, and this could even be like a little kid. You see like a little kid like shaking their hips and doing all the stuff, and I'm like, how? They're so fluid, and there's no like. I dance, and I'm like, my wife tells me all the time, like, she's like, don't dance. I'm like, what? Like then I get annoyed and do like the dad dance, and be like, what? And like, but I can't dance. I mean, I'm sure like dancing actually seems like one of those things that would like be fun to take a class to try to actually learn how to dance.
Sure.
Because you eventually get a little more limber and get a little more loose, and not be like that. Like I always think of Hitch. When he just kind of just like, keep it at, what was it? Keep it between 3 and 9 or something like that.
Ever do that again.
Doing like the spin. Because no, just leave it right here. You live right here. You live 90 degrees or whatever.
Here.
So
keep it right here.
I always find it just fascinating when people like just have that fluidity to the motion, and they make it look just like effortless. And you're like, that's not like when someone makes it look easy, you know it's not easy because they're that good because they can hide like just everything, like their body just kind of like flows and like the joints don't seem like they connect and like everything moves a little bit different.
I think that's why dance is never looked at as something athletic because good dancers make it look easy, and so they don't see the effort.
I think
put
it's
in.
Like
it absolutely is.
Yeah, like athletic. The dance. I had actually I was with this guy last week. His daughter won the world dance thing. It was down in Florida.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
She was like. I don't know, it's almost like Bring It On. Like I think of Bring It On, but like that kind of dance. It wasn't like I guess dance, just like Dance Corp or whatever. And she now is dancing in college, But he was like, dude, it's incredible. Just showing pictures, and they're all just like, everybody's in sync, and they're moving, and their bodies are all just like have a mind of their own. And I'm like, this is insane.
Some of the teams that there's the show Worldwide Dance. Some of the teams that perform, oh my gosh, it's just insane.
It's so cool. Like
it really is.
You just see everybody moving together, like with
the synchronicity is crazy.
Well, you think of like, I'm not going to shit on them, but the like the Rockettes. Like I look at like the Rockettes. I went to the Rockettes as a kid. I think it's great. Again, I'm gonna be very nice, but by the second act or second scene, I was kind of like, I get it. Like it's just different clothes, different outfit, but same kind of kick line. Like it's cool. They're in sync, but like they're so in sync. But like that kind of in sync that I'm just like, the Nutcracker. Like I'm good. Give me the Nutcracker scene, and then I want to see some like crazy flips and dances. But now flipping over to the director side of it, how does that like compare to being a choreographer?
Oh my gosh, there's so much more work.
So do you like directing?
I do. I don't like all the things that come with directing. I like the creative ability. I like the artistic part, where you can put a show together and the show goes up, and you can look at it as a director and be like, "I did that. I put that together." Obviously, with the help of a million people, but on a smaller scale, that's kind of how you feel as a choreographer. Once a number is put together and you see it come to fruition on the stage, you're like, that's my brain right there on the stage. I put that there, and it's a good feeling. But as a director, you got to deal with so much more. I mean, right down to the audition process. Like the final word comes from you. You know what I mean? As far as who's going where, who you're going to cut, who you're going to give the lead, who you're going to put in the ensemble, and there's always disappointed people.
Yeah.
And there are some disappointed people that will come to you and be like, "Hey, what did I do wrong?" And then there's some people that will come to you and say, "Hey, what can I do better?" Mm-hmm. And then there are some people that don't come to you at all and just go to everybody else and say, "I was gypped," and it's a lot. So right from the start, you're kind of pushing uphill. And then once you get into it, you even if you do have people in charge of all the different aspects like costumes and set building and props and light design, even if you are a part of a community theater where you're lucky enough to have people in charge of those things, the overall look, the overall idea has to come from you as the director. You're the one that puts all of the puzzle pieces together. And it has to be your vision of what you want it to look like on the stage. So you may have the set builders, they might have a design for you, or maybe you design it yourself and the set builders build it, but it has to come from you. You might have a say in terms of props of like a certain look you're going for, a certain time period, right down to a certain color. Like it might be that specific. Excuse me. But everything comes back to what the director wants for the overall vision, which is a lot of pressure to put on making sure that all of those pieces come together in the right way. I really enjoyed that part. It's the actual availability of all of those things. So for example, you might go to your costume person and say, "Okay, this is the look that I'm hoping for." And then the costumer says, "Well, this was all I was able to find." And so you're like, "Okay, well, how do we make do with this?" Mm-hmm. Or you might go to your set builder and say, "This is what I'm hoping for as a design." And the set builder will be like, "Okay, well, these are the materials that we have to work with. So what would you like me to do? Because I can't do that." So you also have to adjust your overall vision to what's available, what's possible in the community theater level. And that also depends on, you're going to have to edit all of these coughs out. But that also depends on the different theaters at the community theater level. because like the work that I did at Clinton didn't have the same amount of money allocated to it that the work that I did at Shazy Music Theater did. So what was available was completely different. You know, I had a much smaller team at Clinton to help me get that put together than I did at CMT. So things vary depending on, again, what's available, what group you're working with, what show you're doing. If you're doing a show like Drowsy Chaperone that needed a lot of props but only had one set, however, the set itself had to morph. It had to change throughout the show, and all these little pieces would come out. And so it was a much more complicated set than people realized, I think. Or if you're doing a show, you know, with it's all set in the living room. And so you have the entire show takes place in the living room and nothing moves and nothing changes. Those are obviously going to have two different kinds of budgets, and those are going to have two different kinds of needs to put together. And so, like I was saying before, that was a really long-winded way of saying there's a lot of work. There's a lot more work in being a director, but I really enjoy it. I really do.
How far out before a performance do you start the director role? Like picking out the play, picking out the script?
Months and
like,
months.
Like how long do you think from start to showtime like would actually like 4, 5, 6 months? Like in my
I would say it's probably, I mean, you might have an idea in your head even a year before.
Okay.
You know, and then when it's I would say from the time that you're actually with script in hand planning out scenes and working on characterizations and all of that in prepping for rehearsals, I would say maybe 5-6 months before the show date. Rehearsals usually will start on average in this area. We usually do rehearsals for an average of 6 weeks. There are some shows that get put up in 8 weeks. There are some shows that get put up in less than a month. You know what I mean? Like, but depending on, I would say on average, it's 6 to 8 weeks that we work on shows in the rehearsal.
Was about 2 to 3 months, right? At least. I think they did in March.
They would usually they would start in the beginning of January and then go up mid-March. I know that there were a few years where that was a little bit different, but we would also not be working for that week in February when the school was closed.
Yeah.
And then the week of show, you have all your dress rehearsals and stuff. And so that was more about like getting orchestra and lights and scene changes nailed down, you know? So it was less about working with the actors on like character. I mean, it still happens during those rehearsals, but that's not where the focus is anymore. Yeah. So in the initial rehearsals, I would say, it's about 2 months.
Because I would think, like, I'm speaking for myself, like I would get very nervous if it was like 3, 4, 5 months out and like you're just picking out a script. Like to me, because there's so much that goes into it that I think that once you pick out what show you're doing, then there's got to be a huge like almost like relief off your shoulders. Like, okay, at least I know what we're doing. Yeah. You know, and then from there we can just I mean, obviously do a lot of planning and prepping, but you at least know the parameter of the show that you're choosing from.
See, my relief never came after I picked the show. My relief always came after I casted it.
But that's another big step because you're starting to get pieces in place. And you're like, okay, we're like that next rung.
There were very few shows that I picked, and once I picked it, I was like, whew, okay, let's do, you know. I was always just in that very anxious, nervous place until after auditions.
So when it comes to picking a show, how many options do you have? I should say, how many options do you have to pick from? And then how many options in your mind do you have to pick from? Because obviously there's a bunch you're just like, oh, I have no interest in doing. Right. And then, because when you talk about picking a show, in my eyes, like, okay, is there 30 to pick from? Is that overwhelming? You're like, hey, there's 30, but I really want to do maybe 2 or 3, and I just got to pick between a couple.
I think there's a lot of things that you have to consider when you're even looking at shows, because as a director, I wouldn't look at the same shows for CMT that I would look at for Clinton, because Clinton is a much smaller stage. So I would look at smaller cast shows for Clinton. also has less kids, if any, involved at Clinton, whereas CMT is set up as a family theater, community theater. So I would always have to, also at Clinton, I mean, bare bones, you're looking at, okay, am I picking a play for this one or am I picking a musical? All right, if I'm picking a musical, at Clinton, we didn't have the space for, nor did we have the money, but we didn't have the space for an orchestra. So I had to only look at ones that had either only a piano and still make it sound, full, or they had backing tracks. Whereas at CMT, we had the orchestra, and that was the intention, was live music. And we had access to that. So it kind of opened up more options. There's a bigger stage. It's meant to have more bodies on the stage, bigger casts, that kind of thing. And then from there, you just kind of boiled it. That's where more of the wants and desires come in, is after you hit those bare bones stipulations of what you're capable of doing on that stage, depending on where you're at and what you're not. And then after that, that's when you're like, I would really like to do a comedy, or I would really like to do something creepy, like Sweeney Todd or Jekyll and Hyde, stuff like that. Or I really want to do a drama, but I want it to be a modern day drama, or I want to do a drama, or not a drama, but a classic. I want to look at the classics and pull one of those up. So after that bare bones part, that's when you can go into your own personal bucket list or your wish list or your favorite shows. Is that possible? No? Okay, we're moving on, that kind of thing. And then for me, if I was choosing what musical to put up, the music was a big, big deciding factor for me. Mm-hmm. And I would listen to the music, and if the music pulled me, then I would look more at the show. If it was a show that I was not familiar with, I would look more at the show by listening to the music. Because for me, if somebody's coming to see a musical, if they're not entertained by the music, they're not going to be entertained by the show. Mm-hmm. So as I'm listening to the music, I would think about, what kind of dance numbers or what kind of dance style that would pull out. Is that going to be something entertaining for people? Is that going to be something entertaining for the cast? Like something that they would be interested in auditioning for? And that's also another factor to consider. I might have a favorite show that literally nobody would be interested in auditioning for, but I absolutely love it, and I would love to do it someday. But I have to keep that in mind if I want people to show up for auditions. Are they going to show up for this? And then kind of move forward like that.
This might sound bad, but when you said that, like, a show that people would want to see, I'm like, I know what the last show was Can Can. I just remember seeing it because I was like, I never heard of this show. And it was kind of funny because I don't remember. Like, there's certain ones that I have a very good memory of the show and, like, the songs. And, like, I couldn't even remember the damn play, let alone some, like The Secret Garden. I'm like, some of these plays, I'm like, they're probably great plays. It's just at the time, like, they're not that fun. Like,
Can. Oh.
I don't know much about it. I mean, I know what a can dancer is, but, like I look at, like, at least the ones I was a part of. Seussical, classic. I liked Aida. It was like a kind of a...
that was a great show.
Hello, Dolly was fun. West Side Story is a classic. Drowsy Chaperone was my favorite, and I didn't know what the play was about.
Right.
Gypsy and King and I were classics. They weren't my top ones, but they were good shows. Chicago, way up. Anything Goes was the other one.
Yes.
And Anything Goes was fun. That was a fun...
that was a blast.
But, like, you start looking at some of them, like, some really stand out, and then some, like, like, it was okay, but the music wasn't really...
Sure.
Like, I agree. The music's, like, a big thing. Like, Beauty and the Beast. How was the other one? Did I do 11? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Beauty and the Beast. I did 11 of them. Wow.
Look at you.
Beauty and the Beast.
Math is hard.
The hardest. The hardest. So where do you find, like, the plays to get? Is there like a
Oh, there's multiple sites that you can order from.
And is it true that this might be rumor mill here, but is it true that they have to be off of Broadway for a certain amount of years before you can pick them, or some of these are not Broadway plays, or just...
Yes. I don't know if it's a certain number of years or just a certain amount of time, but they do have to be off Broadway, or like not actively on Broadway. and depending on how long it's been since they've been off Broadway, will depend on how much the rights are.
And the rights can be outrageous.
Oh, yeah.
Chicago was expensive.
Oh, yeah.
The only reason I know that is because I went on the board for 1
Yep.
year, the year after Chicago, which is why we did Can.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like 1 year. It's like, wow, you guys really hit the home run in Chicago. So that's good, but it was a good play. But if you so what's your favorite play? Kind of rapid fire. What's your favorite play that you were ever a part of? As an actor, not a director. I want to take director off, but that you were involved in. I would say maybe on stage. Let's do that.
On stage? Oh, gosh.
Some of these might double up because you might like really love one. But
oh gosh.
This is any play. This does not have to be CMT. This could be like childhood. This could be like last week.
I don't know about absolute favorite. I don't know that I have one single absolute favorite. I know one of my favorites was Into the Woods. It's I don't know if you're familiar with
book?
It's a musical with a whole bunch of fairy tales all kind of mixed together.
Okay.
It's really, really cool. It's a Stephen Sondheim show, and I've done the show 4 times now. I've done the show 4 times. Once I was only in it. I was the baker's wife. And then the other times I was either directing or choreographing, and a couple of those I had a cameo in of Red Riding Hood's grandmother. So it's definitely up there. Oh my gosh, I have so many. Something Rotten is one of my favorites. That one's kind of a spoof on, not spoof, but it's a nod to musical theater, and it kind of
what's it called? Rotten?
Something Rotten.
Okay.
And it's kind of adoring musical theater and mocking it at the same time, and it's really
like
really
a Rotten
fun.
Tomatoes kind of thing.
And it's got some great music in it. I Love You, You're Perfect Now Change. That's been one of my favorites that I've performed in. And that was actually the show that I was talking about earlier, the vignettes that are set up. And it's all about relationships. And
what's a vignette?
It's a short scene, basically.
Gotcha. Okay.
So from scene to scene, it's not the same characters, but the overall show, all of the scenes are on the same
like theme.
Okay. Yes.
All right.
And it's all about relationships. So one scene might be about first dates. Another scene might be about trying to get time to have sex when you're married. Another one is about there's this guy who is in prison is giving dating advice. Like, he holds these dating meetings that singles can come to and learn about dating
from the
but
from
he's
the outside
in prison. Yeah, he's in prison. It's hilarious.
Isn't like Charlie Manson? Didn't he have some like extra like wives while he was in prison? Like, this guy's got it.
There's a scene where this couple goes and they're watching a movie, and he's singing about like he's basically singing his thoughts out loud, and she's watching the movie the whole time, and he's singing about how much he likes her, what he should do. And she's like shoving her face with popcorn the whole time, like just completely. And then he starts getting into the movie, but it's a sad movie. So he wants to be the tough guy, and he doesn't want to like cry in front of her, but he starts getting emotional because of the movie. Oh my gosh, it's such a funny show. There's a scene where these older people meet each other at a funeral, and neither one of them know who the dead person is.
Just here for the party.
It's such a great show. And let's see, other shows.
So
Drowsy Chaperone. Well, I've never performed in Drowsy Chaperone. I've only choreographed it twice, and I'm just so in love with that show.
That was the one with Aldolfo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember. Oh my God, I'm gonna kick myself for forgetting his name. Andrew.
Yeah.
Loria. Yeah, that's what I was like, as you're saying. I'm like, yes, that's it. So he was fantastic.
He was perfect.
Such a nice guy, and he
was perfect.
Yeah, he did a great job on that. So now, what about the ones you directed? Any jump out to you?
The ones I've directed, probably Avenue Q. That was definitely one of my favorites. Let's see. I'm trying to think of favorites. I would say I Love You, You're Perfect Now Change is definitely on that list as well.
Were these at Clinton? Or
Yeah.
Are these okay?
Yeah. Seussical is a favorite of mine. Into the Woods. I'm trying to rack my head of what I've directed.
How many do you think?
Oh, the miscast.
How many do you think you've been a part of?
Excuse me. I'm sorry. What?
How many plays or musicals have you think in your life you've been a part of?
Oh gosh.
If you had like ballpark it, like 50?
No, it's over 100.
Wow. Okay.
Not by much. Like all of the shows that I've choreographed and or directed
Or
and
acting.
and performed it, like and or performed in, I would say all together since my my sophomore year of high school. Yeah, well, it's over 100.
Have you ever done two at the same time?
Yes.
In what roles?
Actually, when we were doing West Side Story, I think I was doing 7 shows at once.
7 shows?
Yeah.
Where?
I don't ask me how.
Like
I
local?
have no idea how I did it.
Because that's kind of a big time for, I know like
Yeah.
PHS always had drama. There was some other, PHS's drama club's like a legit, like first high school. It's a very
Yes.
like intense group. But like,
Yeah.
so were you just like
I was choreographing a lot of shows. But I remember for like months, I wouldn't have a day off because I would shove in a rehearsal wherever I could to get it all done. And there were some shows that I was needed like once a week. And then there were some shows where I was needed 3 or 4 times a week. So when I say I was doing 7 shows at once, I made it work. Like, it wasn't that I had to be at every single rehearsal, every single day, every single place.
Yeah,
but
I thought you were going to say like, yeah, like I did 2. Like 7's insane.
Well, it's
that actually
easier
that
to
number
do
blew my
that.
mind.
It's easier to do that when I'm not the director. So like if I'm performing in or if I'm choreographing, I can do multiple shows at once. If I'm a director, I can do maybe 2 if I'm directing one of them, because directing takes so much of your time outside of rehearsal that it's so hard to do more than one show. So at best, I might like direct one show and choreograph another one, or direct one show and be in another one. But if I'm choreographing or if I'm performing it, that's a lot easier for me to do multiple shows at once.
So when you talk about like directing, how many? So I kind of look at like, say a musical or play, like director as like the CEO of the whole thing, and then you start like breaking it down, like how many direct reports did you have? Because obviously you kind of talk to everybody as a director, but you really have like, I'm going back to CMT days. If you have a director, choreographer, you know, then take like back in the day, like Kim Halley was props. Then you take like, Wendy Misek was doing the, doing the costumes. They dressed as costumes. Then Bob Brayson was doing the backstage, and like the Greens were doing the lighting. Like, so you had like department heads.
Yep.
Did you spend more time directly with them and then say like, hey, Bob, this is what we need. Now go tell Gail what to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like kind of, because I never really worked besides, like I knew people back there.
I wouldn't say I spent most of my time as a director. Initially, they're the people that you confer with to get everything up and rolling and saying, okay, this is what we're looking at. This is what I'm going to expect from people. This is what I need you to start working on. And then the initial rehearsals, that bulk of time is all spent with the actors. It's getting them prepared on the stage, which is why those last couple of weeks before show are so intense, because that's really where the director can finally get back with those people that he met with initially or she met with initially and say, okay, this was the set design. How is that coming? You know, they might check in along the way, but the bulk of their time is spent with the actors.
It's kind of like a play is like Game of Thrones. Like every little department's like their own like Dothrakis are over here, and everybody, and all of a sudden they all just kind of converge at the end.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like, oh, they're all right.
They're all their own
They're
kingdom.
coming.
It is. It really is, because you know, a lot of times actors just have no clue of what stage crew needs to get into, or what the lighting crew needs to get into, or the amount of work that a costumer puts in. They just don't understand it. And a costumer or stage crew or lighting may not understand the amount of time that the actor's putting into learning their stuff or whatever. And sometimes they do. Sometimes you have those people that have experience in all of them, and so they completely get it. But it's pretty rare. And so I always try to remind everyone that, like, everybody's got a job there, and this isn't going to go up if one of those pulls, you know, or is not present. Like, we could perform all we want, but if we're not lit up, if we don't have lights on us, nobody's going to see it. You know, if we can say that we're going to climb the stairs and then slide down the other side, but if we don't have anybody building us a set, it's not going to happen. Yeah, you have to appreciate what everybody's doing.
Well, I remember
to get us there.
I remember like the weeks leading up to it, because we come in like the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like we were there for months. So you come in the last couple of weeks. Some of these plays, like Beauty and the Beast, I knew the storyline because I was a kid, but like, again, Drowsy Chaperone, Gypsy, King and I mean, Aida, Can, Anything Goes. I didn't know what those plays were about. And you start going in, I just remember I would read the script, I loosely read it, meaning I would kind of figure out who was in the scene, and then I was like, okay, so who's Andy playing? Andy's playing this person. Okay, that's Andy. And then like, okay, Jackie's here, Merritt's here, or Jason, or whoever.
Right.
And you start going through, and I tried to learn the characters, so then it was like, okay, you know, Amanda's playing Velma. I knew that. Then you start picking out that, and then it started breaking down even more into, okay, this scene is here, this scene, what's that scene about? Okay, it's this.
Right.
And then it was like, okay, that scene, because you don't, when you get there, you're not running through in order.
Right.
So it's like, oh, we just were in the middle of scene or act 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to run scene 3 again, and let's skip forward to act 2, scene 9. And you're like,
so I always felt like the first week was me just kind of understanding like what the hell was going on, like understanding the play. And it's funny when you get to the final, like the actual performances, you start picking up on stuff like a day out or even the first night. We're like, oh, now they see the costumes and lights and everything. I'm like, that's what that is.
That's why they're doing
That's why
that.
He's carrying a skull. Like, but you don't pick all these like weird things out. And,
absolutely.
And when you go down to like the nuance part, it's like going out and moving something. And of course, our detail back then was like making sure the angle was a certain angle, tape it, make sure like the height's good, make sure like checking with the lighting people. The actors don't see that, but then I don't see the actor making like a dance move, because I'm just like, I just know you're on that side of the stage.
Right.
So it's like everybody really dives into and like really fine tunes what they're working on. Absolutely. And then when you see like it all come together, like, wow, this is actually a really cool play. Yeah. I don't know what the hell they're doing, but this actually looks good with whatever we got here. So it's like when you take the vision from like your mind or whoever's doing the directing and just kind of see all the pieces fall into place. It's like by the time the show goes, it's like a well-oiled machine. And even if people make mistakes, it's the only people that notice are the people that are there. Like, they missed that line. And like, nobody knows. And then all of a sudden, I always found that the people that were, at least from my perspective, were always good if there was a mistake. Everybody just kind of like, whatever, happens. Yeah. I don't think people like really took it to heart or like got mad if they like missed a cue or something. It's like, who cares? Just roll out. Nobody knows what you're doing. Right. Again, just go out confident. Like, coming out like 3 minutes late. Absolutely. Now, what play have you not done that you would love to do, or musical? Is there like a bucket list?
Something Rotten.
You have not done that?
I haven't. I've only seen it, and I absolutely love it.
Is that an eligible play? Or
it is.
Musical?
It's just expensive.
Okay. Is it a musical?
It's a musical, yeah.
All right.
As far as doing them, I don't really have much more of a bucket list because I've done a lot of the shows that I've wanted to do. I would love to do Avenue Q again, but in it, like be a part of it. Because
What's that
I only
about?
directed it. That's the one that's called Sesame Street for adults.
Okay.
It's the one with puppets.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard it.
Like ventriloquist kind of dials? Or?
Kind of, but the actors aren't expected to like keep their mouth closed.
Okay.
And it's kind of the unique design of the show is in that not all of them, most of the characters in the show are a puppet, but the actor that's holding the puppet has to act as well.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So they kind of are like they kind of play off of the puppet a little bit.
Not talking to it, but if an actor is holding a puppet talking to somebody else, the other person is supposed to be talking to the puppet, but the actor needs to be talking directly to the actor as if the puppet's not there. Yeah.
It's like a little mind.
It's so cool.
Trip.
It's so cool. I was very fortunate enough to have a killer cast. Everybody was just perfectly placed. They did an amazing job in the show that I directed. I would love to be able to do it again and be in it. I would have so much fun because I love that show. It's absolutely hilarious and it is completely and totally inappropriate. Like there's so many songs where you're like, hey, we could sing this at karaoke. No, we shouldn't.
How many actors can be in that one?
That one, it's a smallish cast.
Like under 20?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we had, there's 2, 4, 6, 8. I think there was 12 in my cast. I might be off a number or two, but I think there was 12. So it's a fairly small cast. But it's just so much fun. It's so much fun. And it's great music. It's hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious. Oh, I can't believe I completely forgot when you had asked me about favorite shows. One of my bucket list shows that I just did a couple of years ago, I directed Noises Off, which is a play.
Okay.
One of the funniest shows I have ever done. It is absolutely hysterical. Again, I was really lucky with a killer cast in it, and everybody did a fantastic job, and audiences left there like with tears in their eyes from laughing so hard. And I was super proud of that one. That one was a huge challenge set wise, because you had to rotate the set.
Okay. Yep.
So it starts the side that's facing the audience. It's a play within a play.
Okay.
Basically. And all kinds of shenanigans go on as they're trying to put up this play. So in the first act, you see it from the front and they're in rehearsal. And they're trying to work out both on-stage things that are happening as well as off-stage things. In the second act, you flip the stage around. And so you see the exact same play, but from the back and all of the things that are happening behind the scenes, which is craziness. And then the third act, they're back to the front. It's their last performance. They've been on tour. It's their last performance, and it just all goes to hell. And it's just hysterical. So that was definitely one of my favorites. And it was also a bucket list one for me that I was really excited about being able to do. But
there was have you ever seen Book of Mormon?
I haven't seen it, but I
Do you know what the play is?
Yeah, I know the music.
So we went and saw it up at in Montreal, Plaza d'Arts. They had like a tour. It was I'm assuming it wasn't the original cast, but it was like a traveling version of it.
Yeah.
And it might have been one of my first plays that I ever went and saw that wasn't like a local play.
Sure.
Because I haven't seen. I like plays.
So I bet that blew your mind.
Well, I didn't know what the play was about.
Oh, jeez.
So it's one of those things where like, the Drowsy Chaperone, or not Drowsy Chaperone, geez. Book of Mormon is like this funny play, and then I knew the South Park guys were involved, and I was like, oh, well, like, yeah, this sounds cool. So me, my wife, and a few friends went up. We kind of spent the weekend in Montreal, and that was like a matinee performance we went to. And I remember watching it, and the first scene was like, I'm Elder Cunningham. And I'm like, okay, this is good. Like, this is like, whatever. And all of a sudden, that just went off the rails. And now you know, they're in Africa, and I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, and the music is so funny.
Yep.
And the lyrics, and the thing was, I'm sitting there watching this. I got my wife and a couple of friends. Like, we're all a bunch of just immature people. It's great. I like look over, and there's like someone's grandmother sitting there, and I'm like, oh. Like nervous, and then I'm just sitting like, this is outrageous. And of course, you know, she was probably this like dirty old grandma, but it was like, it was so funny. And you start looking at plays, I'm like, they managed to turn that into a really funny play.
Oh yeah.
The music's great, and if you take away like this, just the beat of the music is really good, and they start adding in the lyrics, like, oh my god, this is outrageous.
It's 100% hilarious.
But that was one that I had zero expectation because I didn't even know what it was about. I'm like, what's this like? Because sometimes it's good when you go in and just like start seeing things happen, and again the expectation is zero. So like, hopefully this is good.
Yeah.
I remember watching. Did you ever see the King's Speech?
Yes.
Years ago.
Yes.
I went and watched it as the King's Speech. I'm like, great, watch the King's Speech. He's up for an Oscar. Like, go to the movies and didn't know what it was about. First scene, the guy starts stuttering, and I'm like, oh, it's about his physical speech. I'm like, okay, like I'm not very good with certain movies. Certain things are just like, yeah, I'll just go. I'm like, whatever. I'll just like people say it's good. Let's just go roll. The other one, actually, you had mentioned it before. Did you see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Quentin Tarantino film? Oh, you should see that.
No, but I remember seeing previews for it.
Have you ever seen his movies?
Quentin Tarantino?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You'll watch this one. I don't want to get into it because I thought this would be like if you saw it, I was like, oh, I'm gonna dive in and ask you questions. Okay. I'm not gonna. I'll let you watch it.
Okay.
The ending, it's like a typical like it's a 2 hour and probably 40-minute movie. 2 hours and 20 minutes is just like the slow build, and then 20 minutes of just like, wow. It went from like I don't know what this movie's about. Like it's probably like it's kind of a dumb movie, and all of a sudden like the very end, you're like, oh my god, it was great.
Yeah.
Like he's got some ability to just like. Talk about a guy that can take like tangle webs of like stuff and just all of a sudden be like, oh yeah, they actually do make sense. Like,
absolutely.
And he writes them all himself. He like, just jots stuff down. I'm like, you're insane. Now, what plays have you seen professionally that were your favorites?
I saw The Color Purple at Proctor's.
Okay.
Woof. That was breathtaking.
Isn't that was turned into a movie, right?
Yes.
I think I saw the movie of it. But it was like slavery or something, right? Or was
Whoopi Goldberg was in the movie. This, oh my gosh, it's so good. The music in it, the singing in it, it's just so good.
Because I remember it being very popular, but it was originally a play, or was it the movie?
I believe.
Or was it a book? Could have been a book.
Yes, I think it went from book to movie to musical. I'm not positive about the book and the movie order, but I'm pretty sure it was book movie, but I know the musical came last. And it was just super, super powerful and just really, really cool. They scrapped the whole set, basically. It's the revival that I saw.
Okay.
And there was no set. There was hanging wooden chairs on the backdrop. And for each scene, there might be like a prop or two, but everything basically centered around those chairs. So when they were like sitting in church, everybody grabbed a chair and set it up as pews. But then the chairs were also beds. It was also actual props. Like there was one song that the guys in the field are singing, and they're using the chairs as shovels that they're pushing down in and then and tossing. That movement, and so you understood that they're being used as shovels. She used a sheet. She ends up giving birth to a child and has to give it away, and she uses a sheet. So it's rolled up underneath her dress, and as she's giving birth, the sheet is getting pulled out and then rolled up and kind of wrapped up like in the shape of a baby. Like that kind of usage of thing. It was just
very
really
and
incredible and ingenious, and it was absolutely, the singing in it was just absolutely overwhelming and really, really powerful. So that was one. I saw Wicked on Broadway, which was definitely memorable.
Is that as good as everybody says it is?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, my wife loves it.
Yeah,
she's seen it multiple times. Yeah.
We were invited down to go see George Hearn, who was a friend of ours who lives up in this area, and he had to fill in for Joel Grey as the Wizard. And so we went to go
on Broadway.
So we went to go see him. And afterwards, he was like giving us a little mini tour backstage and stuff, and you see the Broadway stars like literally passing you in the hallway, and you're just like, hi, hi. And then he took us out to go out the actor's door to leave the theater. We crossed the stage. We walked across the stage.
Oh, that's cool.
And I literally stood there and I was like, I need to sing a song so that I could say that I sang on Broadway. And my brain went blank. And I was like, Mary had a little lamb. So I sang on Broadway.
Well, I didn't know we had a Broadway singer. This is great.
My brain went, because I was so overwhelmed at looking out into that audience. Obviously it was empty, but
because a lot of them are small, right?
Oh no, this was huge.
Really?
I can't remember which theater it was in.
Because some of them, like I know you can go in is like pretty intimate. Like there's only.
Oh yeah. No, this was a pretty big one with a couple of balconies, and it was so big, and I was just it caught my breath, and I wanted to sing something, and I couldn't. And then we walked out the stage door, and there were people there shoving programs into my hand to sign.
I did sing,
and I was like, imagine
if you just would have flipped to the back and signed for someone's name. But
I am not gonna say that there might be a couple of programs on this planet with my name on it. I'm not gonna say that at all. I would have
signed it with Sharpie, sure. Why'd you sign it with a G? It's all right.
But yeah, Wicked was pretty awesome, and I went and saw Cabaret with Emma Stone.
Okay, yeah.
And
anytime I hear Emma Stone, I always just think Jules from Superbad.
See, I always think of Easy A.
Is it the same girl? Red-haired girl?
Easy A, yeah.
Okay.
Have you ever seen Easy A?
No,
but man, that movie is hilarious.
When she first came out, her first role was Jules on Superbad, which is one of my all-time favorite comedies. It was Seth Rogen, or not Seth Rogen. Oh, Seth Rogen's in it, yeah, but Jonah Hill.
Okay.
When he came out, he was, Fogel and McLovin, that whole yeah, Superbad. Yeah. She was Jules, and that's one of the most quoted. That's one of the most quoted movies in my house. Me and my wife put that all the time. But yeah, so every time I think of her, I always think of just Jules from Superbad, even though I know she's been in a lot of stuff since.
Right.
Her breakthrough role.
Yeah.
So she was
that's
playing.
That's what made her right.
She was in which one? Cabaret?
She was in Cabaret.
Okay.
And excuse me.
My wife saw one on Broadway. I don't know what it was. Hugh Jackman and Daniel Craig were in it. It was a 2-man play. It was just the two of them, and I don't know what it was called.
I don't remember the name of it, but I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, it was just two, which I thought would be kind of cool. That would be. I mean, I kind of wish I could have saw that because those are great actors.
Yeah.
And just watch those two guys perform on a stage. I'm sure it was pretty cool.
Oh, I'm sure. Something Rotten was the other one the professional ones that I've seen.
Is there a choreographer you take a lot of inspiration from?
There's ones that I admire as far as inspiration. I am not at the level that they are. So I can't do what they do, but there's definitely,
but you can draw from their style or kind of little nuanced things that they do. I could strip that down to a community theater level.
Yeah, there's definitely been routines that I've seen where they'll do a certain kind of lift and I'll be like, ooh, I need to incorporate that somewhere. And then I'll be working on a show and I have to have a couple do a lift, and I definitely pull stuff like that, or little combinations and stuff. I love doing that. I did get to see, Derek Hoff is one of my favorites, and I got to see him on tour in Pennsylvania.
He's a dancer, right?
Yes.
He's him and his sister are dancers?
Yes.
Okay, I'm thinking the right one.
Yes. He's fantastic. Oh my gosh.
Was he in a play or just dancing?
No, it was just dancing.
Yeah, it
was dance routine after dance routine after dance routine.
Yeah. Talk about people that could just move so fluid.
Oh my gosh.
He just looks like he's like a little eel.
He is. He just morphs into anything. He's just fantastic. And so I got to see him perform. I'm trying to think of other.
What about Cats? What's your feeling of Cats? Is that a bad play? I always joke around when people
Cats makes my eyebrow twitch.
Every time I remember back in the day, I'm like, let's just do cats. I don't know if it's good. I remember seeing it on video years and years and years ago when I was a kid. Not enough to remember it, but I just remember it was like everybody was like in spandex and like fur, and then I saw it was on. Didn't they just make a play of it or an actual movie a couple years ago?
Yes.
Like people were like it was an actual. I think
I
like
didn't watch
theater.
it.
No, I'm like. I always say cats kind of like
purpose.
tongue in cheek. Like I don't know if it's actually like a legit. I mean, it's been on forever.
Like in my circle of theater friends.
Full
when
disclosure,
they're
I
like
hate
suggesting
cats. Like,
shows to do, it's kind of a joke when somebody goes, "We should just do cats," and
Yes.
everybody laughs. Like
Yes.
it's kind of one of those. I'm not a fan of cats.
I don't even know what it's about. I just don't like cats. Like I physically don't like the animal cats. They make me sneeze. I'm allergic. But
I know
then
that.
like
I know
cats,
that.
it's
Yeah.
So like
I know
cats,
that
cats.
it's based off of T.S. Eliot poems, but I've seen like clips of the choreography, which is really impressive as dancing. I'm trying really hard to be nice right now. Like
do you watch The Office?
I am in love with The Office.
Okay, me too. Which is why you got Michael Scott over your shoulder. But
Yes.
when Andy dresses up for Halloween as one of the guys from Cats,
Oh my god!
and he like starts grabbing his tail. Anytime I see it, I just think of like Andy dressed as the cat character. I'm like, oh my god. Like, I forgot what he said. There's some line too. He goes, "Who do you think I am?" It's not, I don't know if it was like a cat, and then he goes, "I was going for a cat" or something like that.
Oh my gosh!
But-
Yes, the cat's definitely not a favorite.
Okay, I just wanted to verify because I'm like in my head, it's just kind of like it just doesn't seem like a very impressive play. It probably is. I know it was a very long running show, but
it is in its own right, and especially when it was first put up on stage, like it's earned its place. It's just not something that called to
I think
to my
Cats is
heart.
kind of like if you're sitting at like the dinner table and you have like that old aunt that's just like still sitting at the dinner table and you're just kind of like, dude, she's outgrown the meal. Like she can't hear, she can't see. She's just kind of like there. I'm like, that's like Cats. It's like, I get it. Longevity. You're probably in the Hall of Fame, but let's just put you up on the shelf and let's get Wicked in there or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cats is I don't know. I probably should watch it to see if there's actually a storyline, but then I'm like, yeah, I could probably save myself 2.5 hours and just chalk it up as it's probably not a good play.
Go golfing.
Yeah. That's
Go golfing instead. You'll be happier.
maybe there's a lot of curse words on the golf course. Sometimes our games aren't great, but Jackie, wrap it up there. Should probably get a better topic. Cats let you out, folks. No, like I said, I'm not a big fan of cats. I don't know. There's a lot better plays than Cats.
There's so
Cats
many.
like stump me. Like I don't know if there's anything I can get off of Cats now.
There's so many. So many good ones.
Yeah, Cats is not up there.
That's not on there anymore. Nope.
Does Cats make your top like 100? 50?
As far as
Like favorite plays? If you had to like jot down plays, you think you'd find 100 plays better than Cats?
yes.
Okay, 200. Like what's the number? Where's Cats on the ranking?
Oh gosh. I mean,
Like there's a lot of plays, but you're probably like, I've done plays at Clinton that like some local person designed that was better than Cats. I mean, someone's gonna like.
But see, this is what I want to say though. It's not that it would necessarily be better. Cats is one of those shows that only certain people can appreciate.
Cat people.
And
They're a different breed. It's okay. We know that. Cat people are their own crowd. I got friends that are cat people, and I'm like, they'll send me a Snapchat of the cat, and I'll be like, don't send me a picture of your cat. I don't want to. I don't care. I get it. Their felines are they're on the planet. They take their space. They're not just.
I think cats are cute, but I am 100% a dog person.
Yeah. Dogs.
know?
Wait. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cats got their place, just not on this podcast. So
Yeah.
and should not be on the stage. But Jackie, we'll wrap it up there. We'll leave off on the cats.
Okay. Let's leave the cats alone.
Maybe we'll edit the cat part out.
Let's edit the cats.
They don't even deserve a place on this low budget podcast. So, but Jackie, I appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, of course. Thank you for having me.
I like picking your brain on stuff too, because like I've obviously watched you do a lot of plays and a lot of like choreography, and it's always just stuff I'm curious. Like I like learning about stuff. So I'm like, I don't know, how does it work? Let's open up our mind. If we opened like Pandora's box and we just like spilled out all the stuff.
That's such a scary thing.
It was good. I think when you wrote on the email, when we were asking you to come on, I don't even know what you said. Something about craziness or silliness or just like
Ridiculousness.
We're like, yeah, bring it on. We want it all. We want it all. So, Jackie, I appreciate you coming on. Was this your first podcast?
No.
Okay.
I think this is my third.
Oh, geez. I was gonna say you like rolled in. You like popped in, put the headphones on, put the mic up. I'm like, she's got it. I didn't even give you a prep, so you were great. So we'll wrap it up there. Jackie, Robertin, Miss Italy. This is episode 153 of the Galen Trombley Show. Thanks for listening to the Galen Trombley Show. If you want to reach me, you can go on Facebook at Galen Trombley, on Instagram at Galen Trombley, and on YouTube at Galen Trombley. The spelling, GaelanTrombley.